I kind of make a racetrack pattern and then start going up through the middle back and forth. Doesn't matter if you turn the iron, but I'm going slow enough that the fabric can get up to temperature. I can take this iron and touch and go over top of that. I haven't done any shrinking because the fabric didn't get up to 250 degrees. So I've got to go slow enough that the heat transfers. And I go over top of the ribs, and then my personal preference is I go from the trailing edge up to the spar, because that's usually about as far as I can reach. And then I'll come around the other side of the wing and I'll do the leading edge. Now, what happens when I iron the leading edge? What happens to the heat?
It's going to get sucked up into the...
Yeah. That leading edge becomes a giant heat sink. So if I went slow over the open bay, I've got to go even slower over the leading edge because it's going to suck a lot of that heat out of the iron. When I get done with a bay, I put a check mark. Okay, and the check mark tells me that I have done this bay to 250 degrees. Now you notice I'm starting in the middle, and that's because we want to balance how we heat. So what I'll do is I'll start in the middle. I'll go 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. You can do it the other way also. You can start at the very tip and go 1 and come all the way down to the root and go 1. And go back and forth and back and forth.
But don't go straight in one direction.
Don't start at the root and go all the way to the tip, or don't start at the tip and go all the way to the root. Because what happens to that fabric? And you can start to see it right in here.
Starts pulling.
See how it's starting to pull that direction? So if I started at the root and just started shrinking each bay, it's going to be pulling this fabric the whole time. And you're going to end up with the world's only gull-wing cub. And that's not a good thing. You can literally damage and destroy structure underneath if you're not conscious of how you're shrinking the fabric. Now, these DC3 ailerons, it would take a lot of misguided use to actually warp or damage one of them, because they're heavy duty. They're built to carry 12,000 pounds and at 150 miles an hour. If it's a Kit Fox, if it's a Pete and Pole, if it's an ultralight, if it's a Champ, you can start doing some damage with the iron. Some ultralights, and a Kit Fox is a perfect example. When you start shrinking at 250, you might be fine, but then you may not be able to step it all the way up to 350 degrees to that final shrink, because in doing so, it pulls that structure just too tight, and you literally start to hear it pop and crack and creak and moan, and that's the airplane telling you, hey,
stop,
don't go any farther. I'm going to come apart at the seams if you keep shrinking. So keep that in mind, and that's where tight clubs come in handy, because you're not inventing the wheel here. Everybody else, there's somebody else that has covered that airplane out there, unless you're doing a one-off experimental.
So aside from the time issue, you could actually go up in increments above that 250, couldn't you, if you wanted to play it safe?
Yeah, if
275 or 280 or
if
something.
you've got a lightweight airplane, I'll go 250 and then I step it up to 300. And then I do it at 300, and if everything sounds good, then I start stepping it up again. If it's Cub, Champ, Taylorcraft, something that I know can handle the weight or the stretch of the fabric, I go straight to 350. So iron it at 250 all the way across the top. I roll it over. I do 250 on the bottom then, and then what I'll do is roll it back over, and I'll bump the iron up to 350. And I'll iron everything at 350 again, and I'll put a second check mark. Do the top, do the bottom, and then I'll do 350 again, top and the bottom. I do 350 twice because that's what sets the fabric. That's what keeps the fabric from getting loose when it goes from a cold hanger out to the sunny outdoors, or vice versa when it goes from a heated hanger out into the sun. What you'll find is if somebody's complaining about loose fabric, they didn't get it set at 350 degrees. And so that's why we go over it twice at 350 degrees. Now, once you guys have worked an iron, I think you kind of understand the principle. And so what we're going to do today is go 250 on the top, 250 on the bottom, and then 350 on the top, and that's it. Okay? Because I want to eat lunch here in the next 15 minutes. Pretty straightforward. But
so you're going one, boom, 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 boom.